We all love a good list, don't we? I thought off the back of the two David Gilmour videos that I did last week, and they got quite a few views for my small little channel anyway. And I thought, given that it's the month in which David Gilmour's latest solo album, Looking Strange, has come out, the two videos, of course, that I did were an unboxing of Looking Strange, and then I did a kind of just I talked about the physical media that I owned of David Gilmour, namely his concerts, and I talked about the Pulse concert as well. I thought, in the spirit of carrying on until he starts touring, which is, I think, the end of this month, right? And I'm going to see him at the Royal Albert Hall in early October. So I thought, as a kind of build up to that, and I'm still considering whether I want to do a vlog of that or not. We'll see what anyone thinks about that, perhaps. But I'm still tossing up in my head. But I thought, off the back of all this, what better way than to give myself the arduous task of trying to rank David Gilmour's best studio guitar solos, the best guitar solos in his studio work, essentially. I'm not touching his live stuff because I think that would clog up the list too much and make it even more difficult, because obviously there's an extensive library that we can listen to of live solos. I might make a separate video of that, just because I like tasking myself with making these kinds of lists, I suppose. Kind of the criteria for this, I've chosen 10 being the least, the least best, if that makes any sense, of the 10 that I've chosen, then 1 being obviously what I think is the best. My criteria for selection here is mainly just, do I think it fits the theme and the purpose of the song, or does it carry over, like the kind of mood and the tone of the song? Does it feel like it has a sense of structure? Does it take you somewhere and transport you? Does it kind of have a sense of musicality to it? And essentially those are the kind of, and not only that, but like, and obviously a good way of judging its musicality is, can you hum it? Can you remember the solo? And can you kind of sing along to it? That's a great way of, a kind of acid test of knowing, I think, if you've got a great guitar solo. And of course, what are the first ones that come to mind? Because I think that plays an important part, is how iconic they are. So with that said, let's get straight into it, okay? I don't want this to be too long of a video. So number 10, in the spirit of Looking Strange being out, I decided on picking what I thought was my favourite solo, and actually indeed my favourite track off the album, the one I've found myself listening to the most. I've listened to the album several times now, and I'm going with, it was a toss-up between 2 tracks, Scattered, the last track on the album, but I've settled for A Single Spark, because I just think, which might be a bit of an unpopular choice here, but I just think, again, I thought the tone on this track's gorgeous. I think it really takes you somewhere. Gilmour can be accused in his later years of his solos being kind of a bit more listless, like they lack structure, I think, especially in comparison to his earlier solos. And I think that is the case. And this is a little bit listless in that sense. But nonetheless, I think it's the solo that takes you somewhere the most, that transports you, like all the best Gilmour solos do. So for that reason, and I think it really hits a kind of emotional sweet spot as well, actually. And like I said, I think the tone, it must be played on its Strat. The tone is gorgeous here. So that's my number 10 pick. Number 9, I've gone for The Blue, which I believe is the 3rd track off the On an Island album. It was between The Blue or Marooned, as kind of like showcasing kind of a solo where he does with the Digitech whammy pedal, where it provides him with a different sound in the context of Gilmour's work. And I went for The Blue because Marooned is a kind of instrumental track, and so I think that's a little, to some extent, for the purposes of this list, is a little bit unfair. Whereas The Blue is a song that leads into a solo at the end. Again, I think it's just a great solo that transports you, really hits that kind of emotional core of the songs. I believe The Blue is a song about kind of dying or death. So as a lot of Gilmour songs, you could accuse them of being later on or a bit kind of moribund, or I actually, I remember when I was playing this, I played The Blue in the car, because I had the album, and I played it in the car, and I remember my mum first listening to it, and she was like, well, this is depressing. And I think there's a fine line between depression and melancholia. And I always think that Gilmour sits on the right side of melancholia. I don't think his music is depressing. That's obviously subjective, but because my mum obviously thought the opposite. But I think The Blue is a really beautiful solo and a beautiful track. So my pick for number 8 is Have a Cigar, which I think, and that's off Wish You Were Here, which almost feels like it belongs on Animals, the style of playing there. It feels quite aggressive and energetic, like the tone. Of course, there's the track that Roy Harper sings on, but yeah, I just think it's, again, one of them is more creative solos, and just has a kind of real kind of rock energy to it, you know. Some people might say that, again, Pink Floyd's music is kind of a bit quiet and slow and too calming or something, but I think Have a Cigar is a great example of that not being the case. As is the next example, which is I've got as number 7, is Dogs off Animals. I could have easily picked Pigs off Animals, but I went with Dogs because I just think that it has the most kind of within the guitar, so the guitar playing has the kind of most variety. There's the kind of the dual layered, more emotive, slower bits, and then it has the aggression and the anger. I mentioned actually on my last video about how Animals has it's seen a critical resurgence in recent years. It's kind of gained a lot of popularity, particularly I think with young people who are discovering Floyd for the first time, of course. And I think a lot of that has to do with the kind of the anger that the album represents. Of course, it's one of their most political albums, explicitly political albums, and in the politically polarised times that we live in, I think it resonates a lot with younger audiences. And I think Dogs is it's probably one of the most angry of Gilmour's playing. In fact, I think a lot of Gilmour's best playing is to be found on Animals, and it's a shame that he doesn't. He's not very fond of the album, and certainly doesn't like to play any of their songs from Animals. Number 6 might get a little bit of flack for this just because it's so popular. It was their most successful #1 single, and I believe the last one from the 70s is actually the last single of 1979, right? #1 single. Another Brick in the Wall. Yeah, you might argue it's overplayed, but it's easy to forget kind of how like funky and groovy this track is. Essentially, it's a kind of disco hit that's made into a rock #1. Great track, great solo. A solo that actually affords Gilmour, when playing it live, a lot of opportunities to improvise. If you want to listen to like variant performances of the same song from Gilmour, where he sounds and is doing a lot of different things on each version of the song, Another Brick in the Wall is a really good example to use. Again, got his trademark bends in there, really iconic, sounds great. I think you should, if you're being honest with yourself, you should have it on your top 10 list. Number 5, I've gone with the last track off Division Bell, High Hopes, which showcases his slide guitar work. I think it's actually one of the finest slide guitar tones and slide guitar solos I've ever heard. I think it doesn't get mentioned enough, actually, probably because the album is kind of not thought of fondly within the kind of the muso community. But I think High Hopes is an outstanding solo. Great way to close the album. Literally is the last bit of music you hear on the album from the last track, and really emotive. Again, fits the theme of the song. High Hopes is a kind of melancholic, mournful look back on lost opportunities and regrets and stuff. And I think that the solo somehow conveys that in slide guitar form beautifully. Number 4, I'm going with Money off Dark Side of the Moon. Again, yeah, it might be one of their more. I mean, Pink Floyd isn't typically overplayed because I think they're quite selective of where their songs can get played. Although saying that, their back catalogue is reportedly they're nearing a deal for it being for sale soon, which I'm not a big fan of necessarily. So yeah, there is that. But Money, yeah, I think it just sounds so good. Again, part of that is the dual tracking of guitar leads, right? Which gives it that bit of echo that just really nails that tone. And again, it's got attitude, and obviously it's in 4/4, which is in contrast to the time signature played throughout the rest of the song. And it just gives that. It's just so cool, right? It's one of the coolest guitar solos, I think, which nails again the kind of the ironic nature of the track. Number 3, I've got, this is kind of cheating because there's loads of guitar parts in this, but Shine On You Crazy Diamond. All the guitar parts in it, I can't just pick one. I know it's like, essentially it's split into 2 tracks and then multiple parts in each track, because essentially it's like a 25-minute piece or whatever, but it's just, again, if you want like an example of Gilmour's great blues playing, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, I think, is one of the best showcases of that. Again, very spacey, transports you. and just it's ethereal. It's just really, really great playing, and arguably, I don't think maybe he's never quite replicated it live. I think that's an argument to have, but I love Shine On You Crazy Diamond, the studio version. So number 2, down to the last 2. This is probably going to be quite controversial. A lot of people are thinking, yeah, Comfortably Numb, okay, it's going to be number 1. It's my number 2. And that's not me trying to be controversial. I think Comfortably Numb is, look, it's just, maybe it's because it's so synonymous now with like great guitar solos. You know, Comfortably Numb is often listed as the greatest guitar solo ever made, or ever created, as it were. And I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I think it's just fantastic. Both the first and the second solo. I kind of can't really choose one over the other, I suppose. And you know Comfortably Numb is such a great solo because when it fades out, you just don't want it to end. You just don't want it to end, and it goes by so quickly. Again, it fits the theme of the song perfectly. It takes you on a journey. It's structured. It's a brilliantly constructed solo that you can hum in your head every note. And that's, like I say, that's the sign of a great, great solo. But for me, my number 1 guitar solo from David Gilmour is, and I think my opinion, maybe the greatest guitar solo ever recorded, in terms of the fact that it fits the theme and the purpose of the song, is Time of Dark Side of the Moon. I think Time doesn't get enough credit, actually. It's kind of held up there by Floyd fans, but I think in terms of like being one of the absolute greatest guitar solos, I think it is. Like I say, in terms of a solo, what it should do, like I say, is fit the kind of theme and the purpose of the song, in which Time is about kind of like, well, again, it's that kind of mournful melancholy of regret. Time is the solo that kind of makes me feel the most. It gets the most probably emotive reaction out of me, and really almost puts me into a place where I'm kind of in almost like a deep pondering about. Again, it's the most transportive of his solos, I think. And like I say, if you're going to judge a solo by its ability to fit within the song and kind of like extend and comment upon almost like the emotive state that the song puts you in, I think Time is one of the greatest guitar solos ever done. So that's my list. If it's like I say, if I was doing a greatest guitar solos ever, certainly its Time would be, well, it would probably be number 1 in that as well, actually. Yeah, number 1 or number 2 or number 3. It'd be right there. But then again, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a huge fan of David Gilmour and Pink Floyd. But there are a lot of guitarists I do like. So honourable mention for those that want an honourable mention. I'm going to go with actually No More Lonely Nights of Paul McCartney's record from 1984. Again, that depends if you're a fan of Gilmour's kind of that early mid-80s sound. But if you are, this is a great little hidden gem of a solo. That's, like I say, it's on Paul McCartney's track. Has 2 solos and one of them on the fade out, and really, really good stuff. So yeah, those are my picks. You can put your picks down below if you like, or you can vehemently disagree with what I've chosen or the order that I put them in. I wouldn't take the order so much set in stone, apart from like the top couple. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on that, and maybe I'll follow it with a live one, which is going to be even more difficult and torturous for me. But as always, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.